Records of Fugitives from the papers of Sidney Howard Gay, July 1855. Read by Frank Blissett. July 24th. Recorded a note from James S. Gibbons, who had received information that one Sarah Moore, a colored woman and a fugitive slave living at New Haven, was in danger of capture, and there was reason to suppose that her husband Jacob Moore had betrayed her. Napoleon was sent in the next train to New Haven with directions to find the woman and take her immediately to Albany. Napoleon arrived at New Haven and found Sarah without difficulty. She had a comfortable room, well furnished at her own cost, for her husband had abandoned her some time since and become a worthless fellow. In the morning they started for Albany, but at the depot Napoleon saw a New York marshal well known to him, the same who about a year since arrested and returned to slavery the brother and nephews of Dr. Pennington, and with him was a man who answered to Sarah's description of her master. Napoleon was, naturally enough, a good deal alarmed, and thought it best to leave the train at Springfield. There they remained. Sarah had an infant child with her, a day and a night. The following day went to Albany. On Friday, Sarah and the child were sent on to Syracuse, where they were to remain till intelligence of her other children could be sent her. On July 4th, Sarah came to New York with all her children, and Jacob called to see her. He persuaded her to let the 3 elder children go out to walk with him, and she foolishly consented. He did not return with them. "My heart," she said, after leaving for Syracuse, "is broken for the children, and I must have them." Efforts are making to find them and get them out of the hands of the worthless parent. Sarah was a slave at New Bern, North Carolina, and escaped 11 or 12 years since, I am not sure which. She was concealed on board a vessel by the steward in an unoccupied stateroom forward of the cabin, in a berth which was used as a dormitory for dock cordage, oakum, and other articles of daily necessity. In this berth she lay, covered by these various articles, the whole passage, which, if I remember aright, was 7 days. The mate visited the berth frequently whenever any of the articles kept there were wanted, but he never discovered her, so well was she concealed in a place only partially lighted, and so quiet did she keep herself. She did not leave the berth during the whole voyage. Moore had met her at New Bern, and had promised to marry her if she would come to New York, and gave her his address. On her arrival he had gone to sea. He, however, soon returned, and they were married at the house of James S. Gibbons. July 25th. Jack, a native African, in whose behalf a writ of habeas corpus was issued, there being reason to suppose that the man who had him in charge intended to make him a slave, was brought to the office by one of the city marshals. After his discharge under the writ, he was thrown on his own resources, and having little knowledge of English, was about the streets, homeless and idle. I promised to provide for him, and in a day or 2 Mr. William A. Hall consented to take charge of him, and carried him home. Paid charges to him till taken by W.A.H., $1.50. July 31st. Jane Johnson and her 2 children, the Wheeler slaves, arrived. Paid their board, $2.50. Passages to Boston, $10. James, her son, lives with William Mohegan, head of Grace Street. That was Records of Fugitives, from the papers of Sidney Howard Gay, July 1855. Read by Frank Blissett.